Hello, and welcome to Breast Cancer Conversations, a podcast brought to you by survivingbreastcancer.org. I am Laura Carfing, breast cancer survivor and founder of survivingbreastcancer.org, a nonprofit organization providing community, education, and resources to empower those diagnosed with breast cancer and their caregivers from day one and beyond. Hello, my friends. I am so excited you are coming back to another amazing episode of Breast Cancer Conversations. I love connecting with all of you week after week and bringing you the latest and greatest from our breast cancer community. Today, I am joined with Heidi Punke Brown, who is living with metastatic breast cancer. She is an amazing woman, a mom. She's from Illinois. We have mutual friends, which we did not know at the time of this recording, but throughout our conversation, we've come to discover that we are dear friends with the amazing Leslie Ferris-Yoger, who is the founder and executive director, CEO, all the things at My Density Matters. So we talk a little bit about that. Heidi shares with us what it's like living with MBC, how she has undergone Gamma knife for a lesion that she has on her brain. And then we also talk about the beauty of, trying to find peace in this world of chaos, the role of meditation, and her wisdom and I think she gives us 5 tips for how she navigates all of this. So we have quite the episode for you today. Welcome to Breast Cancer Conversations. So glad you are here. If you're new to our podcast, I want to let you know that our podcast, as you heard from the beginning, is brought to us by survivingbreastcancer.org. So I would encourage all of you, if you're not familiar with our organization, to hop on over to survivingbreastcancer.org/events. And there you will see all of our programs. We have weekly support groups, aka our Thursday Night Thrivers. We have Thriver groups specifically for inflammatory breast cancer, all stages and phases and subtypes, plus one for metastatic breast cancer as well. We also have a variety of amazing programs, including expressive writing, art therapy, programs now being offered in Spanish, which I'm so excited about. Again, we really are just putting out amazing programs and services for you. All of our programs are 100% free to our SBC community members, those living with breast cancer, metastatic disease, etc., and their caregivers. And we are so fortunate because of donors like you to keep us in business. Run a Facebook challenge for us, a Facebook fundraiser if it's your birthday, donate via Instagram, especially as we are coming up on Giving Tuesday and end of year giving. All of your donations are 100% tax deductible. All right. That's my spiel. Thank you again for listening. Let's get to the content today with Heidi. Welcome to the conversation.
I think probably the biggest Pinktober issue for me is that my social media feeds are just so full of breast cancer things because I follow so many groups, organizations, people with breast cancer. And so, I can scroll and scroll and scroll, and I only see that. But yet, my friends who don't have breast cancer, they aren't inundated with it. It's kind of like my own fault or my own doing. And so, a lot of my friends, they're all sharing like the Metaviver, thing of the day and stuff. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't see this same thing again, and I see it on Facebook, and then I go to Instagram and it's a repeat. And then I go to Twitter and I'm like, okay, this has to stop. But it's not the world. It's the world that I choose to be in. So I'm not really sure all the world feels pinked out. It's just that we choose to surround ourselves with that. And so that's what we get.
To some degree, we can be in our own echo chamber, preaching to the choir about breast cancer, about early detection, understanding your symptoms, and then supporting each other throughout the diagnosis, whether you're early stage or late stage. Heidi was diagnosed with metastatic de novo breast cancer, HER2 positive. And de novo means that there was never an earlier stage of breast cancer that was detected. So when she went in for her mammograms and additional screenings, they ended up finding lesions on her liver, immediately bringing her to a metastatic stage 4 advanced breast cancer diagnosis.
I found a lump in the shower. And so I made a doctor's appointment, had it checked out. I'd had what I thought was a clean mammogram. a few months prior, and the mammogram still didn't show anything, but I mean, my primary care provider could feel it too. So I had a diagnostic mammo and an ultrasound. And just because I was having some other symptoms, they did a chest ab pelvic CT. Actually, they did just an abdominal CT that day too. So all in one fell swoop, they said, yes, you have breast cancer and you have innumerable masses on your liver and you have 3 spots on your spine.
What were your other symptoms that prompted the additional tests and screenings?
I had recently lost a lot of weight and I had what I thought were gallbladder symptoms, which we now know were liver symptoms, but we thought it was gallbladder. So, so I was diagnosed de novo in July of 2019, and I choose to get my treatment at Barnes Jewish Hospital, Washington University, and that's in St. Louis, which is about 3.5 hour one-way drive. But my cancer is HER2 positive, and so I got down there, and they also found that my adrenal gland was involved, and found several lymph nodes. So I got started on chemo actually pretty quick. And I was on Herceptin, Perjeta, and docetaxel. And breast tumors disappeared, and everything got pretty much under control. And I was just doing Herceptin and Perjeta. And then in November of 2020, so a little over a year later, they found that it had spread to my brain. And I've had 3 different times I've had gamma knife for additional mets in my brain. And the last one was 2.5 weeks ago. But everything is very controlled except for brain, although it's not bad. I mean, we do gamma knife and those go away. So I'm sure, because gamma knife really, I don't know why it has that name, but it's cobalt radiation, very specifically directed to tiny little targeted sites. So I go in and they do a very detailed brain MRI the day before, different than a regular MRI, one that's a little longer and a little more detailed. And they use that to map and program. And then I go in the day of and they screw in the halo frame. And then I'm screwed down to a table. And the gamma knife is cobalt radiation that will just directly, I mean, they can direct it to hit a 2 millimeter lesion on my brain.
Is there pain associated with the gamma knife procedure?
No pain at all and no redness, just the fatigue. And you can have edema from the radiation. The first time I had it, they did the procedure on 5 lesions. And then the second time, they did it on 6. And so both of those times I was on steroids afterward because of the edema. Now this last time there was only 1, and I'm not even on steroids from it. I'm 2.5 weeks out. I mean, I feel tired, but I also feel tired because I've had metastatic breast cancer for 3.5 years. So I don't really know what the difference is, you know?
Completely understandable. Do you practice any meditation or take anything to help with the anxiety prior to going into gamma knife?
Most people take some medication to relax. They do use lidocaine and inject in the 4 places. So you don't feel the screws going in, but you hear internally the sound of the screws going through the bone, which is as eerie as I'm describing it. You hear internally, you can hear that screw is going in, and you hear that sound in your skull, but it doesn't hurt because they've already given you lidocaine. It is a little freaky, and they say most of their patients get some kind of medication beforehand. I am a big believer in meditation And so I meditate, and I don't use the medication. Meditation is so helpful to me. I just happen to have learned that before my diagnosis, not long. I was diagnosed in July of 2019. And earlier that year, I was seeing a therapist, and she suggested it. And I was just a super duper high type A personality. And I thought, there is no way I can do this. And I just got a free app and tried it. And I mean, it took a long time before I could get a minute. I mean, that was a huge accomplishment. And now I'm to the point that I can meditate my way through these procedures. I can meditate my way through the long scans, and it's really helpful. And I tell people that I highly recommend meditation. And if you think that you're a person who can't do it, you should have known me 4 years ago.
How often have you gone in for Gamma Knife?
The first 2 times they were longer treatments. I think the first one was over an hour, but like this last one, there was one lesion, and I was in there about 25 minutes, and that's it. And you go home.
All right.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And so the side effects from that just seem to be like the tiredness and the fatigue from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely feel more tired, but that's kind of hard to judge when you're a busy person and a mom and overscheduled, and you have MBC anyway.
That is so relatable. And for so many of us listening, we wear so many hats. We try and do all the things to manage a breast cancer diagnosis, living with a terminal disease. Heidi answers my probing question, trying to help me understand how she does it all, managing her busy life, all of the things that she's engaged in, plus navigating a metastatic breast cancer diagnosis. I hope you find these tips helpful as well.
First off, for me is faith. And I understand that looks different for a lot of people, but my faith is just vital to me. And I feel like MBC is just kind of given me just a one-on-one communication with God. I'm able to focus more than I used to be. Secondly would be family support group. My immediate family and my support group is strong. 3 would be my spouse, my husband. He's vital to me being able to fight this. He kind of knows when I need sympathy, and also seems to know when I need to have a little push in the behind to keep going. And finally, what ties to the faith in a way is the therapy and continued work on how I'm not in control. I have always been a big control freak. And it was something I was working on before the diagnosis. And the diagnosis really brought that to a head. I'm like, oh, I get it. I'm not in charge. I'm a CPA, and so kind of the things you associate with a CPA, that's me, slightly OCD and a little things like that. Well, you don't have any control of your life. And I really sort of thought I had some control over things. And then this diagnosis came, and I'm like, oh, I'm not in control here. And in a lot of ways, I think I'm happier now than I was before my diagnosis. I would not in any way say that cancer is a gift. Some people do, and that's their prerogative. It's not a gift because of the ultimate outcome, and definitely because of the effect that my cancer has on my loved ones, my children, my husband, my mom. But I will say I feel mentally stronger since my diagnosis because I'm able to prioritize things easier. I always had a problem with work-home life balance and some other things. And when you face a diagnosis like that, it becomes pretty easy to go, what's important, what's not. Okay, if it's not important, I don't have time for that.
Right, right. How old are your children?
My kids are 25, 21, and 20.
Okay.
2 are in college and one's out of college.
Okay. And so how are they taking all of this news with their mom living with MBC? And your spouse and your husband, how's he doing?
They're doing fairly well, I think. It's a little more of a struggle for my kids on different days, different times. Everybody's a little different. I think my 2 younger ones, I think it hits them a little bit harder, and they were younger. And my youngest was actually still in high school. So she was here living with me when I was going through all of that, first diagnosed and all the trips down and starting chemo and things like that. But I feel like we're very, very close. I'm very, very close to my kids, closer than I was before, because again, we all understand that you just can't keep putting off important things.
We all know living with a breast cancer diagnosis has its whirlwind of ups and downs and so many emotions, and that there are things that are obvious triggers for us, and then some things that we don't expect that become incredibly triggering. I remember when I found out somebody I was close with was pregnant, and I am super happy for this person. And at the same time, it was like a knife to the heart, knowing that because of all the treatments that I was on and everything that I've been through, that I probably most likely will not be having kids. And so it was this weird moment of, unexpected triggering. And that's just one example. So I wanted to ask you, are there things in your life that you either know and proactively can manage around in terms of triggers, or things that are unexpected that kind of bubble up out of nowhere? How do you navigate all of this?
There are, I like the unimportant days, the momentous big occasion days, birthdays, anniversaries, holidays. Those are a lot more difficult for me because we associate key memories that we think about, every year that day. Whereas if you pick a random date in October, you don't remember what you were doing the year before. So I always know that I have to be prepared and a little bit on guard for the special days. In terms of Pinktober, I've come to realize that my issue with it is kind of brought on by myself. Because if my friends who don't have MBC are scrolling through their social media, they might see a few things about breast cancer, but not anything like me. Well, that's because I have a lot of friends who have metastatic breast cancer. I follow a lot of organizations and support groups. I support a lot of not-for-profits, or, try to. And so when I get on social media these days, I could scroll for 10 minutes before I find something that doesn't have to do with breast cancer. And I try to remind myself that that's kind of brought on myself. So there's no one to get angry. I feel there's no one to get angry about that over. That's just a price I pay for loving a lot of people with MBC. Because I will see some post and think about sharing it. Well, 7 of my very good friends with MBC have also already shared it. And nobody's wrong. It's just, that's what we see. This year has been a little better for me because I didn't realize that I had dense breast tissue, and that meant I should have been getting additional screenings beyond a mammogram. And so after learning all this, I work with My Density Matters.
Leslie Ferris. Your girl. Yes. Oh my God. Shout out to her. Woo, woo. She's amazing.
Absolutely.
Tell me.
She is. She's incredible. So Leslie and I kind of met online, and I have a very good friend of mine who farms near me. he was actually he was a board of directors at the company that I was a controller for. And so we talked a lot business wise, and I told him that I was diagnosed and explained it to him. And he owns power planters, which among other things, they sell augers that you can attach to a drill and you can plant bulbs very easily, or you get bigger ones and dig fence posts and that kind of thing. So Greg is just a wonderful friend. And so we all connected, Leslie and Greg and I. And so now we have Heidi's Hope boxes that are out and available for purchase at the Power Planter website. And it has Leslie's book in it. It has information on dense breast tissue, why it matters, what you should tell your care provider, your doctor about it. We had a partnership by a company who's donated pink tulip bulbs for it. And you get the 7-inch pink auger. And so the idea is you can go out there and plant bulbs that, magically over winters here, you don't see anything. And then all of a sudden in the spring, these beautiful flowers pop up. That's how it happened. Greg, that first winter, he gave me an auger, and my husband, Dave, and I planted 100 bulbs. And, at the time I was thinking, gosh, I don't even know if I'm going to be alive in the spring, to see them. And when you have Midwest winters and you think, well, how can anything like a little bulb survive and turn into a beautiful flower year after year? And it was so nice to see them pop up. And so you can get the Heidi's Hope boxes. There's a personal letter from me in there. And then it $25 goes to My Density Matters. And we're working really hard with My Density Matters to get the word out. There's a Check Your Chart initiative. And we're just trying to make sure every woman knows her breast density and why it matters.
I love this. In full disclosure, and I'm going to have to text Leslie after this call because I actually serve on her board of directors and love that woman. So such a small, world and dotted lines everywhere. And I actually did not know about the Heidi Hope packages. I think that is phenomenal. So one of the things I definitely want to do in the show notes after this recording is link to all of that. So I'll be following up with you to get Greg's link for that, let people know where they can go to get these bulbs. And how beautiful to think, when we put something in the ground and you kind of leave it there and you don't see it, how much still happens, right? That in these cold winters, you in Illinois, me in Boston, there's still life, and, you need to nurture that and pay attention to that.
And I know, there isn't a set course of how long you live with metastatic breast cancer, but with the little that I knew in July, when I suddenly find myself with it, and you do internet searches with, mets to my adrenal gland, my bone, innumerable masses on my liver, I didn't think there was any way I would be around in the spring to see these flowers bloom. And, now I've been around for 3 springs, and I have another, I haven't told my husband this, he'll hear this on the podcast. I've ordered another about 150 bulbs to go in. I'm going full tilt because I'm going to be around here in the spring to see them come out. And flowers all signify hope, but bulbs especially, because there's just absolutely nothing there. You put this odd looking thing in the ground and cover it up, and then winter comes and you don't see anything, and early spring and you don't see anything. And then all of a sudden it just, you have a beautiful plant. And I just love the concept of hope, and we have to keep hoping, because I tell myself, you can't die every day. You're only going to die once. And so if I focus on when I'm going to die, I'm dying a little every day. So I want to keep I want to keep my beacon out there looking for hope and to keep going. And for me, I also really like the work with my breast, with my density matters, because I feel like I can maybe save some lives, get some other women to get their breast cancer diagnosis at an earlier stage than I did. And Leslie has the same story.
Very much so. So kind of understanding what your breast density is. And for those who are less familiar, when you go get your mammogram, the x-ray or the imaging that shows up is a black and white image. And your cancer, if you do have cancer, is also showing up white. So if you have very dense tissue, which shows up white on a mammogram, and your cancer is white, there's no way of finding the white snowflake in the field of white snow. So it can go undetected for a long time. And not every breast cancer either has the traditional symptoms of finding a lump, right? So there's also lobular cancers or inflammatory cancers that present differently. And so I think the more education, as we kind of started off to getting outside of our own echo chamber, but letting people know about your body is just really important so that they're empowered to ask these questions and press for other types of diagnostics. If they have a family history of breast cancer, a genetic mutation, or just want to make sure.
We need to learn to advocate for ourselves, much like we talked about the busy mom syndrome when, there's no time for me to take care of myself. Well, you know what? You need to advocate for your own health. That's why if you text, check your chart to the number 211-411, you'll get all the information about breast density. And for me, I love hearing from my friends and acquaintances now who now, know enough to look in their portals and go, oh, I have dense breast tissue too.
Right.
And then they're going to their doctors and they're, demanding the additional screening. It just makes me feel good. I can't change my story, but maybe I can change the story for some other people.
100%. Really like moving that needle, getting the information out there, and making it so accessible too, because everyone has a cell phone these days, it seems. So, just being able to text something. What was that number again? 211?
It's 211-411.
Okay.
And the words you should text are check your chart.
Awesome. Heidi, this has been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast. It was so fun hearing your story, learning about the bulbs, how people can get involved. Our mutual friend, Leslie, who is running an amazing organization, My Density Matters. Such good information today. I'm going to put all the links in the show notes below. Thank you again.
Thank you for inviting me on. I enjoy it. And I listen to the podcast all the time.
And thank you all for listening and tuning in week after week here on Breast Cancer Conversations. Please be mindful that all of our content and information is for educational purposes only and is never a substitute for medical advice. If you want to hang out, again, please check out survivingbreastcancer.org/events, where you can RSVP to our Thursday Night Thrivers weekly meetup, our Movement Monday classes, workshops, seminars, and so much more. We can also continue the dialogue online via social media. Our Instagram handle is survivingbreastcancer.org, all one word, and you can follow us on Twitter at SBC_ORG. Until next time, keep on thriving.